What's up, everybody? Hey, making money in your agency is challenging if you lack certain foundational principles like marketing and advertising principles that you really need to know. This training, this tutorial that you're going to see is all about how easy it's going to be to get clients, how easy it's going to be to get a lot of them, and how easy it's going to be to make money in your agency. If you get these wrong, everything else will fall down. So if you feel like maybe some of the training is a little bit slower in terms of the pace, put the thing on 1.5x, something like that. But the content is good, and it's here to help you make a lot of money in your agency. So enjoy. Today I'm going to talk about the boring letters. Who knows about the boring letters? Gary Halbert is widely known as one of the best copywriters who ever did it. Okay, and the boring letters are it's a really interesting. It's kind of a cult classic, a cult favorite in the copywriting community. And here's why: the context makes all of the difference when it comes to the boring letters. The boring letters were written from boring prison. Okay, and Gary Halbert got sent to prison for a scam he was unwittingly an accomplice in. He did not realize he was a part of this. All right, he wasn't too bright when it came to some things, but incredibly gifted when it came to the art of persuasion. In fact, one of the stories that he tells is he actually had an entire crew of bank employees that would open letters for him and deposit checks. And he brought his dad to the bank, went down to the vault, and there was 4 employees opening letters and taking checks out and then piling them to them and putting them in stacks of checks. And he said to his dad, "See all those people opening envelopes and pulling out those checks? Those are my checks." And so he mastered the art of salesmanship in print, which is what ad copy is. All right. So the boring letters, before I read them, the boring letters are like this cult classic book about ad copy, and everybody talks about them. I'd never read it. And when I went into reading when I got the book, I was so excited. When I went in to actually read this book, I remember I told my wife, like, "Hey, this is an awesome book. I want to dedicate the entire weekend to do this." So we went up to a cabin in by our house. We went up to a cabin, rented a cabin, and I just read this book. It's not a big book, you can read it in a couple hours. But I was just like so excited, and I started to read this book, and it says the first point is, why was it perplexing? So let me actually read this thing I wrote here real quick. So reading the boring letters was a perplexing experience for me because it taught me the most important beginning principles of advertising, and that word beginning is deliberate. Okay, so let's talk about why it was perplexing to me. So that's the first thing I want to tell you about. So the reason it was perplexing is I thought when I went into reading that book, I thought I was going to get all these secrets, all these templates, frameworks, I thought I was going to get all of this stuff that was going to, turn me into a money printing machine with, some tricks and some tactics. And that's never the case when it comes to business. It just doesn't work that way. All right. And so here I am reading this book, and the whole time, all Gary's doing in this book is talking about hot lists. Okay. So back in the day when they would do direct response marketing, so writing letters. So you're talking about print and in the mail, that's what they would do. He would talk about these letter brokers. Hey, I don't know how he was corresponding with letter brokers from prison, but hey, I was talking with so and so, and he said he's got a really hot list for this. And so the whole book was just, he kept talking about these hot lists. Well, we don't do hot lists today necessarily. Like that's not something that we talk about a lot in online marketing. I have friends who do that, like direct response copywriters for, direct mail. I have friends that do that. But there's these things called list brokers. And so I got through that book, and to be honest with you, I was like underwhelmed. And immediately I didn't like go back and go like, oh, okay, well, whatever. I just went on, right? I just went on to to the rest of my career and just, whatever. Next book, next lesson. And after thinking about it, though, I remember I was talking one day to a friend of mine. His name is Lawton Childs. He's in the Facebook group, and he's actually legally blind, but he's incredibly gifted with words. And we were talking about it, and he was telling me, he's like, that book is not about copywriting secrets, right? I'm like, yeah, I know, it sucks. I've read the book. It wasn't very. All it does is talk about lists. He's like, of course he does. That's the only thing that matters. It's like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? He goes, the only thing that matters is seeing your offer from the perspective of your audience. And that's all a list is. A list is a collection of a specific audience. And I was like, oh, okay. Okay. Right. And so that's where I want to stop here. I want to stop here because this becomes the stopping point and the pivot point as to where, for me, the mental shift, the change was anytime in my entrepreneurial career. So I've never had a job, right? That's not true. I worked at Wendy's Sky Store when I was 14, and then I mowed lawns, so that was my business. But then I worked at the bank as a teller for a while. But I've mostly worked for myself. And anytime I started a business, anytime I did a thing, I always did it based on my idea. I'm like, oh, I'm going to create a mortgage company that has this payment structure and does this and does that. And that was my idea. They were all like ideas that I spun up in my head. And all my friends that were entrepreneurs, we'd all spin up ideas in our heads, right? The truth about ideas is they're as good. They're basically like toilet paper, right? Ideas suck. Just use them to wipe your butt. And I say that because an idea is nothing when it comes out of your head. It's only something when it comes from another person, right? It's only something when it comes from an audience of people. And that's what that's what the whole point of that book was. Gary would get served lists of hot lists, meaning that list broker, the person whose job it was to provide physical addresses of 10,000 people. He would say, this group of 10,000 people just bought gold bullion from this other company. They are gold buyers. They've already proven they bought these. This is a hot list. So Gary would think, all right, my audience is gold buyers. What do I do next? Well, now I just reverse engineer the products that they already want. If you've heard me talk about sales, my favorite quote in sales is ask people what they want you to sell them, then sell them that thing. Roger Harris, I believe. Okay. And so that's why this book is so foundational, so important. If you read the book, you'll probably he's writing to his sons, Bond, and I forget his other son's name. He's writing to his sons, and he's saying these things. He's just telling them to get the list. And then, they're talking some products, but he talks very little about copywriting. In fact, you want to know the copywriting structure, which I believe he's most famous for? It's called the if-then phrase. It's incredibly easy. If you want more new patients, then my Facebook advertising will give you 10 to 20 per week, whatever it is. It's if-then. He says you only need to, if you know the audience good enough, if-then will pretty much fulfill any copywriting need you have, which is crazy because if you go back through some of his best sales letters, they say if-then. It's bonkers, right? The whole idea, and that's why point number one is focus on your end prospect. Okay. So the second question, what did it teach me most? The second or that first point is it taught me to look at business always, whether it's my products, my services, my sales copy, my ads, my retention, my churn, my anything, looking at it from the perspective of my audience, right? This is why some of you guys have been to a lot of my stuff and I bang the gong when it comes to a niche audience. And there's a lot of people that don't listen to that. It's because of this. Right? So it's a really big deal. So that is point one. Now, why beginning? Because you can do anything. Alex Ramosi says you can either, you've either got time or money. If you've got time, invest it in learning. If you've got money, invest it in buying time, right? And really, all we do when we learn. So, what you guys are learning from me, my hope is you're not paying me anything, but maybe you'll buy into some of the ideas that I'm giving you, so you'll get to an end result faster. It does benefit me if you get a result. I'm not saying I'm selfish, but if you build a successful business because of some things that I share and you get there faster, then I'll make more money, right? So if I share this with you and you make more money, then great, right? And but this is why, like, this is the beginning of your business. Okay. Now I want to tell you about a time I used this, and I already talked about this a little bit, but when I made that $116,000 in profit in that 3 week time period, I want to talk about that a little bit because it was all about doing the first things first. So had a couple of guys who own a real estate website, and they do something called real estate financial modeling. It's very complicated, and I'm too stupid to understand it. Okay, but one thing I do understand is product creation, right? And I understand people and I understand psychology. So they went through and they said, hey, we have about 40,000 people, I think at the time, 40,000 people a month who come to our website to read it. And I said, okay, cool. That's great. And they said, we make some money, but we really want to see what we can do to make more money. And the original reason that they came to me is because they wanted to sell banner ad space, right? You know, the banners on the side of a website. Okay. You don't get paid very much for this. Depending on your site and the content, you get paid, $15 CPMs, $20 CPMs. It's not great, but it's some money. And so 30,000 people across different pages, maybe they'll make, 5, 6 grand a month, something like that. And so they wanted to see if I could help them. But I did not go in there for that reason. I went in there because I knew they had a niche audience, and a niche audience is always going to be powerful. And after listening to them, I said, listen, I know enough after you're asking you these questions. I know enough about what you're doing. But what I think we should do is do an ask campaign. And I think we should ask your users what they want. Does anybody know what an ask campaign is? Who Ryan Levesque is? Okay. So for those of you who don't know, you should Google it. It's a very simple thing. It's usually about 8 to 10 questions. They follow a particular format. The last question before they hit submit, or the second to last question before they hit submit, is an open-ended. So basically tell us what you want. And then I think the 10th question is, if we create what you want, can we reach out to you? Something like that, right? So, so I did an ask campaign, and we got, I think, somewhere like 150 to 180 responses, something like that. And as I was reading through the responses, this recurring theme came up, and it was, hey, they wanted a course, like they wanted a way to learn a pretty complex skill in a curated fashion, like faster, like A, B, C, D in the right order, because to that point they weren't getting that education from school. The education they were getting online was Frankenstein, was patchwork, getting this little bit here, that little bit there, and spending too much time, wasting too much time. And so the opportunity was a curated, fast direction. So I went back to the owners. I'm like, hey, they want a course. They want it to do this and that and the other. I sat down with them. We came up with an idea. And one of the guys was like, I don't think it's a very good, we already teach this stuff for free anyway. I don't think people will buy it. I said, well, they're saying they will. So one of the guys said, okay, let's do it. I said, listen, we mapped out a course. It was 17 modules. I said, just create the first two. If nobody buys it, then you don't have to waste any more time. But I think it's worth the risk. So I wrote a sales page. And by the way, the headline and the subheadline are still the same headline to this day, 2018. So is that 5 years later? 5 years later. And it continues to get sales every single week now. It did $116,000 in revenue in the first 3 weeks, and the guys were blown away. They couldn't believe it. They're like, Why are people buying this? I don't know, but that's what they want. So that's why this is the first thing. If I had gone around and tried to listen to their ideas, we probably would have came up with some other stupid idea like, oh, let's create. I actually remember some of the ideas they had, not great ideas. But we probably would have gone down that route because I would have, allowed myself to get taken that direction with them. So that's why it's the very first and most important thing. All right. So we're 20 minutes into this. And before we go into the more tactical part, which headlines and benefits focus, that's the foundation. Because when we talk about attention, and we talk about focusing on benefits and features, those ideas and frameworks and formats have been spoken about so much that I feel like they lose their meaning to you guys, right? But they really are the most important thing. If you follow this path, right? So if you follow the user centric or the prospect centric process and really know that audience, the headline and the benefits, like those things are incredibly important. And I have some cool formulas that I want to share with you guys on headlines and on benefits. But before we get into that, I want to get some reaction from you guys, get some feedback, get some questions. Um, is this new to you guys? Is this something that you have heard? What questions, what commentary can you add to being prospect centric in terms of your business, your products, and your marketing?
I have a question, Sam.
Yeah,
So, in the example you just gave, they had an audience of 40,000 people on their list. If somebody's starting out and they don't have that audience, how do you even get to the point of asking those questions if you don't have an audience to ask to?
that's a really, really good question. And I'm not saying that I have all of the answers. I'm saying there's some things you can do because this is similar to to where I was when I started working with chiropractors in my agency. Because um, I had been to the chiropractor once, but I really didn't know that well. Simple answer is just go and talk to them. Just go and talk to them. You can go in and specifically. Now, you guys are all here because high level and UpHex. That doesn't mean this whole presentation isn't to say you should go create something else. What you should do is you should go in, you should talk to a chiropractor, a roofer, fill in the blank, and you should say, hey, if I bought you lunch, would you answer some questions for me? Have you ever been approached by a Facebook marketing company? What do you think about them? What do you like? What do you dislike? What do you wish it did? What do you wish it didn't do? And just ask those questions to the audience, and then do that a couple times. I remember when I got, I served a mission for my church when I was 19, and I remember the guy that was in charge of all the missionaries. He said when we were going home, he said, "Hey," as kind of like a piece of advice. He said, "Hey, when you go home, you should interview 12 people, like 12 professionals, and ask them about their jobs and ask them what they like, what they don't like, right? To help you as you're going into college, to help you have some direction and do that." Now, I never did it, because I was young, whatever. Uh, but it was really good advice, right? And I think sometimes the most simple solutions are the best ones. There's that approach. There's also the opinion, there's opinion leaders in every space. Okay, now depending on the space you go into, some are more jerky than others, but you can be a fly on the wall in a solar networking group, right? You can go just listen to what they're saying. You can go to the ads that people are running. You can see how the comments and stuff that people are doing. Um, because it's not something that you're going to go out and find people readily um, telling you what they are. You're going to have to do some detective work, and I think that's why a lot of people. We did a call with about high level, go high level, the one we do on Mondays now with my COO. And a gal got on there. She's like, "Hey, my husband does coatings, and so I want to run the ads for his coatings things." And she is building her agency around wives doing marketing for their contractor husbands. I was like, dude, that is so good. And so we actually, in that call, I went through the entire build out of her agency because it's so specific. I'm like, this is easy, right? And so we did that. And she knows the audience, right? She knows both parties. She knows the husband that does the thing, and she knows the wife, and she knows when partnerships work out. She knows the whole thing. And so sometimes it starts out with the question of what do you already know? What are you already an enthusiast about? Right. And it really only takes if you listen, have you guys heard my case study with Alex Machuca? That dude went from 0 to 500 grand a month in revenue just by cold DMing people a hook offer, right? And we could talk about hook offers, but just by saying, "Hey, I think his thing was like, if I could deliver, what was it, 20 to 30 booked appointments in the next 30 days for free, would you be interested?" Something like that. And he just DM people, bam, bam, bam. And he just filled up his business and crushed it, right? So as soon as you know the right, like, lever to pull, the right thing to say, you can get a great response. So I don't know, Jeremy, did I answer your question? Awesome. Any other thoughts on seeing what you do from the point of view of your prospect? Mandy Hunt, a lot of new stuff. Love the idea of an ask campaigns are awesome. You can do it with Google Forms. Pretty easy. And I think I wouldn't know the exact questions to do right now because but I would probably just Google ask campaign. And for me, whenever I Google something, I do ask campaign and then I go to images. I do that every time because I don't like to sort through articles. And you could probably even now just go to Chat GPT, say, "Hey, I want to do an ask campaign based on the best practices Ryan Levesque puts forth in his book, Ask Anything," or no, Ask, and it would do it for you. All right, cool. Headlines that get attention and then focus on benefits, not features. Headlines Headlines are the thing that I think everybody wants an easy button on, right? Everybody is like, okay, so you can go and Google, like right now, you could Google 100, the top 100 headlines, right? And there are some that are like better than others, but not everything works for, not everything works. So there's a couple of formulas that I really like when you're doing headlines. Okay. Number one is belief. All right. So most people, when they go into the headline business, they just make crazy claims. Gary Pennsylvania has do you guys know Gary Pennsylvania, his bullet points, his awesome bullet point stuff? Gary Pennsylvania's marketing bullet points. You should look it up. I'll put that here in the notes. So he has this marketing bullet points, and one of the tests he does is he compares two headlines, and one is like, uh, use this trick and become a millionaire fast, something like that, right? And then the second one was, give me 20 minutes and I'll show you how to work a marketing miracle. Sound familiar, by the way? I use that in my top performing video. My give me 30 minutes, I'll work a sales miracle in your agency came from that thing. The give me 20 minutes and I'll do this. Why is that why do you guys think that's such a compelling, believable headline? Thoughts, like, totally unmute yourself. What do you think? Any thoughts come to mind? Why would that be such a compelling combination? Give me 20 minutes and all the thing that you want.
It's a direct result, right? Like a direct outcome in a very
Okay.
short amount of time, so it doesn't take a bunch of time, right?
Okay. Talks about an outcome. That's good. And you're right. It's a short amount of time. That's true. Anybody else? And it would probably be better if like I said, I'm riffing, guys. I'm riffing off of stuff that, you know, comes into my head based on the lessons that we're talking about. But that exact example, I don't remember the headline. It was how to make marketing miracles. Like, it was a huge promise. It was an outrageous promise. But give me 20 minutes made it believable. It made it so like, hey, you need to give me, and it was like, give me 20 minutes a week or something like that, and I'll work on marketing miracles. So it made it believable. Believability is outlandish claims, and you guys see this, like your competitors, the other agencies are out there throwing out these crazy, outlandish claims, and it works for some people, but for other people, it's like it's not, the juice ain't worth the squeeze on that one, right? And it really is a limiting factor. All right, so belief is one. The second one is B plus C equals I. Has anybody ever heard me? I've talked about this one before. Anybody know what that means? All right, I'll tell you.
Something curiosity equals interest, right?
Benefit plus curiosity
Benefit.
equals interest. This is one of the cool. So you guys in copywriting, we have this thing called IDA: attention, interest, desire, action. Right? It's a framework for writing any sales letter. It's pretty common, pretty well known. So attention, attention is not incredibly difficult. You can, in Facebook ads, you can use a video and an image, and that's going to get attention. But the interest is the big one. The interest is where we look at the psychographics again, because we're starting with the prospect at the very end. That is where we tap into the behaviors, the habits, the observations, the beliefs, the limiting beliefs of an audience, and we pull out the benefit they want, and then we remove something that they assume, and that creates curiosity, right? So benefit plus curiosity equals interest. Now, I can't just tell you the formula without giving some examples, because then you won't learn it, right? So benefit. Let's do a quick little, and this is going to be rough. I guarantee you, I'm not great at doing this stuff on the spot. It really does. For me, I'm pretty slow. It takes me a while um, to come up with headlines and hooks and things like that. But let's go ahead. What is an example of an audience that we could choose? And I don't care if you guys want to use one of your own agencies as a test dummy for this. Spout something out. What would be an audience that we could write a headline for? Anybody? Bueller.
I'll go.
There we go.
Hair salon owners.
Hair salon owners. To the bald guy. Come on. What are we doing here?
Okay, group
No,
fitness
I'm kidding.
studio owners we could
What's
do.
that?
We could do group fitness studio owners if you want.
All right, group fitness. Oh, now she's talking about, because I'm in such great shape. That's good. Okay, so we're talking to group fitness owners. All right, what do group fitness owners want? What is the outcome that they want?
More members.
All right, more members. All right, what kind of members do they want?
People paying monthly memberships on a contract specifically.
Okay, okay, so on a contract, and then what would get them really excited? Like, what type of monthly members? Like, is there a specific? I don't know how well you know this business, so I'm just prying a
I
little
do.
bit.
Yeah.
Okay, so is there a particular type? Like, if you said, "Hey, we get this kind, and we're really making money. We get that kind. It's fine." Is there some nuance there?
Not overly, no.
Okay. What about, is there a way to make money on them? So, like, for example, there's one-on-one training. There's like boot camps. there's challenges, are there uh, propositions, are there configurations where they might make more money with consolidated amount of effort?
Um, Probably, I guess. Yeah.
Okay,
Like,
let me say it this way: if you were a group fitness owner, and I were to wave a magic wand, and your group fitness dreams came true, what does your group fitness business look like when you walk in the door every day? What does it look like? What does your calendar look like? What do the people look like? What's going on? Tell me what's going on.
yeah. So I work with a couple different franchises.
Okay.
And so I know for them, it's like having their classes waitlisted,
Ah,
would be a really good one, probably. Um, Lots of new trial members and a higher conversion rate into sales, right?
there we go.
So
All right.
attracting the right trial members on their introductory offer.
All right. All right. So we're going to talk about. I like the sold out.
Yeah,
I like the
waitlisted.
waiting list.
Yeah,
Get your gym. We're just gonna say waitlisted.
yeah.
Wait
So
listed.
this is like group fitness where they're at certain times, right? And it's group like led by an instructor
Yes.
type of fitness
Yes.
studio.
Okay. So right now we're talking about the benefit that they're getting. Right now
Yeah.
they have an assumption of people who do that. So the assumption is, oh, these places that are able to get group listed, they get it doing this. What's that? Do you know?
The conversations that I have, a lot of times ultimately they feel their competition are they have cheaper rates, so
Okay.
they're offering cheaper rates. So maybe it would be like without under charging or without having right at premium rates. Yeah.
Okay. So get your gym waitlisted with premium rates
Yeah.
and do it without. What are the
Well,
methods that they use to do this? Like, what are the things that they're using to? Um,
a big one for me right now
okay.
is without spending hours on social media, organic social media, right? Without having to post to Instagram 12 times a day, If we're talking about what I'm selling is we run ads, right? And I think probably too without dealing with paying an expensive agency as well, right?
So let's look at what we did here. Of course, I clearly don't know your audience, all right, but you do, which I think is
Yeah.
great. And
Yeah.
so this would be like, by the way, whenever we're copywriting, this is what we do. We throw out ridiculous things, right?
Yeah.
And
This
every
is super
nothing,
fun. I love
yeah,
it.
nothing's off the table. Everything's on the table, right? So get your gym waitlisted with premium rates and do it without social media obsession and expensive agencies. All right.
Yeah.
So if that was if the social media obsession, right? If we could put in their head the idea that, dude, all I do is all this all day long, is freaking crazy.
Yeah.
If we could paint that idea in their head, but then remove it, they're gonna go, how?
Yeah.
So what is that?
100%.
That's called curiosity.
Yeah.
Curiosity is the great mover of the sales process. Okay. So that's why B plus C equals I is such a simple form. It's very easy. Right. And there's always the ones out there where it's like, so, and that's why if you look at any of Russell Brunson's stuff, the one headline that he tells everybody uses, how to get X without Y. Well, that's B plus C equals I. right? You don't have to use how to get X without Y if you know what the formula is. If you know that you're saying, hey, get the thing that they really want, take away the thing that they really hate. Now you got curiosity, right?
Right.
And what is the job of the headline?
To grab attention.
Okay, what's the second job of the headline? To
To
make them
evoke emotion.
to make them read the subheadline.
Mhm.
What's the job of the subheadline? To make them read the first line of copy is called the lead. To make them read the lead. What's the job of the lead? To make them read the body. What's the job of the body? To make them, you know. So it's don't make one thing, don't conflate the different things, right? And so if the whole idea of your headline is benefit focused, and you want to say benefit, curiosity, and interest, just make that your headline. Okay? Because as soon as you do that, they're going to go from headline, and then if you do that one thing right, then they'll read the subheadline. And the subheadline, you're following the same format, but you just have more like time to do that. Does that make sense? All right. I'm going to end with we've kind of conflated the idea of headlines and focus on the benefits, but I wanted to talk about focusing on the features and then feature creep. Okay. You'll notice that in the headline, there's zero features. There's zero features there. Okay. We don't want to talk about features until we get down deeper into them thinking, well, what is this? Right? That at that point in time, it then becomes appropriate to talk about features. However, on any podcast, on any ad, on any fill in the blank, you ask a business owner what they do. If I were to ask you, what do you do? Well, I have a white label software and we run ads for people. We do this, we do that, blah, blah, blah. You talk about all the features in your stuff. That's not what you do. You don't do that. That's the mechanism that delivers something. What do you deliver? Oh, well, we help chiropractors get qualified patients booked and paid every week. That's what we're focused on. Oh, how do you do that? So isn't it interesting? If you start with what you do, then the next question, the next obvious question is, oh, that's interesting. That's what I want. How do you do that? When you lead with the hey, and it's funny because I am double speaking a little bit. You guys have seen like Force Adsets um, posts where he says, uh, "Run Facebook ads for your insurance company in 45 seconds" or something like that. So that kind of flies in contrast to what we're talking about here. So the caveat to that is every now and again there is an audience that knows about a tool and wants it, and that there's a really unique new way of doing that thing, and you can use that at times as a niche approach. Okay, use sparingly. It's a testing thing. You can totally test it, but that should not be your default approach. Your default approach should be focus on the benefit, focus on the people. Yeah, you can test. Hey, you can test. In fact, some of our ads in UpHex, as you guys know, um, get more insurance patients or customers, whatever. Get more insurance customers in just 3 clicks or Facebook ads in 3 clicks, whatever. You guys know. Use sparingly. Like understand what the tools are that are in your hand. But the idea is whenever you talk about your business, talk about it from the right perspective. Like stay low key on your features. Even to this day, here's the truth. Even to this day, I have feature creep. I still have to remind myself, stop talking about your features. I'm super excited, you guys know. And for obvious reasons, I'm super excited about what UpHex can do. But UpHex is nothing if it can't produce a result for you guys. It isn't. It's not worth. It's a crappy software if it can't produce a result. The only reason that UpHex grows today is that you guys are getting outcomes and you guys are talking about it with each other, and it is growing organically, right? So that is what you want, but you have to start with, again, and even if you've heard any of my stuff in any of these meetings, I always ask you guys what it needs to do, what you want it to do. So it started out with me because I own my own agency, knowing what needed to be in there. But as it's grown, there are things that have gone into UpHex that I didn't necessarily want to put in there, but you guys asked for them. I'm like, all right, I can concede these things. Oh, let's work it into our repertoire. Maybe I can learn some things.